Thanks a lot and good evening, all of you. And first of all, let me thank University of Colombo Clinical Society for giving me this wonderful opportunity. So I am privileged and honored today for your talk. And also I need to thank Raveen and also Disura for your wonderful introduction. So this reminds me my medical student era many decades ago. And today our topic is balancing a life is not something you find, it's something you create. Before we get to our talk, and I need to mention two things with regard to the COVID situation in Sri Lanka. As you know, the COVID has recurred again. And as a medical professional, I need to advise you to adhere to all the health guidelines and also your wear your mask and also the wash your hands and keep your distance and so on. I hope that we will get rid of this COVID menace without any problem. As you know, children, that all of us, all of you, in few years time going to be doctors. And as you know, doctors are very busy life. So in busy life, you need to serve your people, treat the patients, and you need to balance your life. So how do you balance your life? Because you are going to do a responsible job in few years time, and you need to have both physically and mentally balance in your mind. So to have the balance in your mind, you need to have your profession balance in all aspects. So does it make any sense? Balance in your life is not something you find, but is something you create. Does it make any sense? Yes, it is. You can have your balance in your life. How? What I do is in next few slides. So these are topic. Balance in your life is not something you find, it's something you create. So how do you do this? What I did in my life, what I am going to do in next few minutes, I am sharing my experience. Then I'll share my thoughts. Then you know how I balance my life. And end of the day, and I am a kind of a successful man in few fields. So, ladies and gentlemen, in me, there are 5 in 1. As you know, in this picture, you can see 5 in 1. And a doctor, a medical specialist, and a admiral, and a wildlife photographer, and a sportsman, and also the family man. So how do you balance these one? Because this is very important. Because especially the doctors are busy people and a responsible job. What we are going to do end of the day. Where you stay. Therefore, you need to have your mind need to be very balanced, and also you need to be physically also you need to be fit. More than the physical fitness, I think your mental fitness is very important. You need to be sound in your mind. You need to be clear in your mind, and you need to be balanced in your mind. So that you need to adjust yourself. So this is my first slide, and you can see 5 people in me. And so let me start with my life in the Navy. And this is 1982 when I joined the Navy, and after about 36 years, I retired as admiral. And you can see the difference and both my appearance and both my colors and everything. And I am also from average family, and my father was a clerk and mother was a nurse. And I studied in Maladeva College, Kurunegala. And even in my school days, in addition to my studies, I did almost all the sports in my college. Especially, I captained the college in cricket. So, with all my studies, I was able to maintain myself, manage myself with all the other extracurricular activities. Even without even intentional, I unintentionally I was involved in various other extracurricular activities in addition to my studies, but was able to get into the med school. As you know, these are medical faculty and Colombo Med School, and also on the picture on the right side is the Bloemfontein Hostel where I I stayed during my period in university. And even in the Colombo University medical faculty, in addition to studies, I used to take part in many extracurricular activities. You can see the block night. I don't know whether it's still happening, and it is an annual event. And I took part in 1982 and 1981, and many occasions I was the best actor. And you can see I was getting my award from late Professor Dayasiri Fernando. Not only that, I captained university in cricket, medical school in cricket, and here these all these guys are most of these guys are now the consultant in various parts of the world. So again, I'm telling you, in addition to study, still I was involved with various other extracurricular activities, which I continue from my school days and also in the university as well. Then 1982, I decided to join the Navy. As you know, the war was just begun at that time, and there was a huge requirement for the doctors. But as you know, when the war was there, hardly doctors joined the military. So they advised for the medical students, and I decided to join because I don't know what was the real reason for that, but I had the kind of a liking towards the military services because I did my cadeting in my school. So I I went for the interview, and I was selected to the Navy. And as normally any parents, I mean, generally they would not allow to join military at that time because the war has just begun, and we don't know where it's going to be end. And also the having selected to the medical faculty and joined the military is not very pleasant at that time. So there was a huge resistance from my parents, and in fact, my father didn't want to come to Colombo to sign the agreement because there is a kind of agreement you need to sign with the Navy, and without, it was a great difficulty sort of assure him, and somehow I convinced him, and he came to Colombo and signed the agreement, and then I continued my life in the Navy. So there was huge resistance, not from the parents actually, also from my faculty batchmate. They said, "Not, don't join Majang. It is not the best place because where is the war has just begun, and we don't know what's going to happen in future." But anyway, I decided to stay on, and it was good actually because I was one of the medical students. I think had a little money in my hand because I was starting getting my small salaries about 1,500 rupees, and I was able to maintain a car. Actually, this is my father's car, so I was able to pump petrol. So I kept my car in my hostel. So I was one of the few students who driving a car during the medical student's time. And on your picture on your left side, you can see my batchmates, my group mates, and almost all people are now consultants. And you can see the girl with a blue frock sitting down is none other than Sudarshini Fernando. Now he's a minister in Parliament. And this is my roommate. Now he's in Cardiff, consultant anesthetists, 1982 2017. I met him in 2017 at the airport. After 35 years, now he's a consultant anesthetist in UK, and he's in Padure. So these are our story. And then I finished my degree. Then I wanted to serve to my people in my hometown, that is Kurnagala. So I decided to do my internship in Kurnagala because I know that after internship, I'm not going to serve in public because I'm going to be a military officer and I'm going to be in the Navy the rest of my life. So I decided to go to Kurnagala for my internship, and that nurse who is right side to me was my mom, and she was a nurse, and that is also kind of I think a rare incident. She was the head nurse, Union of Spirit, and I was the HO. So, I mean, that is also kind of a rare opportunity one would get. And the picture on the right side, you can see after I become admiral, and I took this picture with my mom and with a 2-star military officer. And in the Navy, I worked in various places, and Naval Hospital in Jaffna, Naval Hospital in Trincomalee. And at that time, only few doctors in the Navy. I was the 6th doctor in the Navy. So they didn't allow us to do the postgraduate study at that time because only 6 doctors. So I served about 5 years in Jaffna and 5 years in Trincomalee and in time to time. And but after 5 years only, they allowed me to do the postgraduate studies. I was little behind my peers for obtaining my postgraduate degree. That is quite understandable because at that time, the requirement of medical officer more important than the consultant during the war. So these pictures were taken when I was in Pinko and Jaffna, and picture on the right bottom, it's actually my wedding, which took place in Anuradhapura. It was a military wedding, and so all my friends were attending that wedding. And then I got to my part one medicine. And when I was in Jaffna, I got my part one, and then I was released to do my part two, MD part two, at the Postgraduate Institute of Medicine. Then I got to my part two, and for my foreign training, I decided to do gastroenterology. Actually, at that time, gastroenterology was not a specialty, it is a subspecialty. So I was basically trained in medicine, but I decided to do the special interest in gastroenterology. And I went to Royal Adelaide Hospital in Adelaide and did 1 year training in gastroenterology. And there too, I wanted to get some qualification rather than just having the experience only. Then I spoke to my professor, John Dent, and to get some kind of a qualification before I returned to Sri Lanka. Then he said, even if you want to get your uh, accreditation for endoscopy and colonoscopy, you need to do certain numbers of procedures, and which will take at least 2 years. That's how they train their postgraduate people in that unit. But here you have only 1 year, so I don't know whether you can reach that number, but we'll give a try. Then I got his permission to work with other consultants who were visiting to that hospital also. Then with the permission of my prof, and I approached the other consultant, and then they agreed. They agreed, okay, you can come and join us whenever we do procedures, and you can fill up your requirement and try to submit your case, and hopefully they will consider. So before end of 1 year, I did all which otherwise takes about 2 to 2.5 years, but I completed within 1 year, and the numbers they required in unsupervised, and the procedures and everything I completed within 1 year, and I submitted my request to the conjoint committee. Then they approved, and at that time I was the first non-Aussie trainee who got the Australian qualification in endoscopy and colonoscopy. So that is also kind of achievement at that time. Then the other important the milestone in my life, I was sent to do the postgraduate studies in gastroenterology 1 year. That is a postgraduate scholarship given by the PGIM Sri Lanka. But whenever I walked into the gastroenterology unit in Royal Adelaide Hospital, I used to pass the hyperbaric unit of the same hospital. Then I got friendly with the professor, John Williamson. Then after few months in gastroenterology training, I discussed my intention to do postgraduate studies in hyperbaric and underwater medicine, diving and hyperbaric medicine. Then he was a very nice man, and he said, all right, but only thing is, first thing is, you need to get the permission from your country to extend your overseas leave. And also the other thing is, you need to do research, and also you need to pass a qualifying exam, and also you need to work in the unit as a fellow in hyperbaric unit at least 1 year. So those are the requirements. Then I made a kind of a request to their ethics committee, and they accepted my topic, and they said, all right, you can come and work with us. And these are the first occasion that they allowed again the non-Aussie doctor to follow that course at that time, that in 1998, 1999. And then I wanted to extend my leave. Then I forwarded that to Sri Lanka. As you know, initially, in the first place, they said, no, we don't want you to do that diving and hyperbaric medicine, you need to come back. that was very unfortunate because it was a requirement of the Navy at that time. And but they said no. After 1 year, you need to come back. Then I repeatedly put my request, but they said no. So some other teacher gone to the highest authority. Then they said, okay, you can follow your diving and hyperbaric medicine course, but you will only given the non-paid unpaid leave. That is no pay leave, but no allowance or anything will be stopped. As you know, I was with my family, with my two daughters and my wife, and I was renting a house and I was driving a small renting a car as well. So it was very difficult, but because they stopped all my allowances and everything, I'm not trying to sort of put the blame to anybody, but I'm trying to tell you how I overcome all these hurdles. And I said, I decided. Anyway, I decided to follow this course because it's one of the rare opportunities that one would get. And they accepted my thesis and everything. So then what I did was, the, the emergency unit, you can work as a visiting registrar there, medical registrar. So I got the opportunity to work in the emergency unit in the Royal Adelaide Hospital, few hours a day. So what I do is I work in the night shifts, few shifts in the Adelaide Hospital uh, emergency, and the daytime I'm working in the hyperbaric unit. So basically, when I leave home, I reach home after about 3 4 days because I continue working in the hospital day and night, only few hours sleep here and there. So it was very difficult time because I had to find expenses to my children. They were schooling at that time. I need to find my expenses to my house requirement and everything. So therefore, I need money. So and they stopped my allowance and everything, but I earn few bucks while working in Royal Adelaide Hospital emergency. But some or other, I completed my study. Again, that particular study is also spread over 2 years, but I was able to complete within 1 year. And after 1 year, I was the first non-Australian doctor to obtain diploma in diving and hyperbaric medicine. Here on your left top corner, you can see the paper I published, that is effects on hyperbaric oxygen treatment in blood on blood sugar levels and insulin levels. That was study I conducted, and then I got the basic and advanced medical officers course. I got through. Then I got the diploma in diving and hyperbaric medicine from South Pacific Underwater Medicine Society. Then I returned to Sri Lanka. I was posted to Jaffna, and I started working in Jaffna. Started working in Trincomalee again, and then I love to teach students, and I developed the endoscopy unit in Colombo. So gradually, I started getting my ranks, and I became a captain at that time. And then I developed our hyperbaric unit in Trincomalee. It was a treatment chamber, that red color or the orange color chamber, that was used to yes, that was used for the divers, actually to test the divers before they put into the water. But I converted that into a treatment chamber because it was a difficult task. Before I got my degree in diving and hyperbaric medicine, only few people were treated in the chamber. But after I returned from Australia after my qualification in diving and hyperbaric medicine, I started I started using this chamber to treat people. I have treated, I would say, I have treated when I was in the Navy more than 300 people I have treated, including the foreigners and also the age groups. I would say you can see the very old lady from Netherlands, and she was about I think about 72 with a decompression illness, and so that was also a task because I got my degree with a with a great difficulty. But end of the day, I used my skill to improve the Navy diving unit, Navy diving treatment unit, and I converted that diving chamber into treatment chamber. And during my Navy time, I was little popular and I was good looking at that time also. And they used my picture to attract doctors. This is one of the advertisement they put in Sunday Observer to get the consultant and the doctors to the Navy. And after my diving qualification, I was able to write the diving medical manual to the Navy for the first time, and there wasn't any manual to the doctors to how to conduct uh, medical examination in the diving officers, and also how to treat when they fall ill. And also, I have written few articles with regard to the diving, and also the diving medicine, and also the hyperbaric oxygen treatment for other conditions like cancers and so on. There are so much of indication, like 16 indications that you can use hyperbaric oxygen treatment other than the uh, decompression illness, like certain cancers you can treat, radial tissue necrosis and osteomyelitis, brain abscesses, and various other conditions. Certain neurological condition you can use. So likewise, I have written only a few articles with regard to other diseases because we don't have the treatment chamber, only the diving chamber we have. So therefore, treatment for other condition not that easy. So when I become the Director General Health Service, I was able to help to put up a Navy General Hospital in Verisara. And I was instrumental, and now we have got a state-of-art hospital in Verisara, and I was very happy. It was it was I was able to finish the hospital before I retire, and I was able to start a few things in the Navy. Actually, why I'm telling you this, these things, because it is certain things that if you want to do, you can do. And here I have started a CME programs for the first time in the Navy when I became the Director General Health Services. As you know, this is Dr. Anand Vijayavikrama, Dr. Bulgapitiya. So we invited eminent speakers every fortnight to have medical discussion. So this is one of the uh, first time actually we have started our CME programs when I was the Director General. And then I got my highest uh, medal, that is VSP, Visishta Seva Vibhushan from then President, and before my retirement. And this is my retirement day, and that was my grand ward round and final parade and final speech. Then it was a mixed feeling when I retired from the Navy, and both I was happy. I was happy because I joined as a medical student and leave in the Navy as a consultant. And also I joined as acting sub-lieutenant, junior most rank, and leaving as a two-star admiral. So I was happy, and I was little, uh, I mean, not unhappy, I would say, but I was, I was not able to wear the uniform which I really like. So I was a little upset at that time. Anyway, so then my next part of my talk is wildlife photography, and I am sure that you will be more interested about this part more than my mid school career. And why I picked the wildlife photography is I think it's an ideal package, and because it has got adventure, challenge, and because as you know, wildlife photography has a lot of adventure, and also the wildlife photography is always a challenge, and you are dealing with a unfamiliar environment, and also the unfamiliar, there's no control in your subjects, so there's always a challenge. And also the when you do the when you meet the challenge, and accomplishment is very pleasant, and also the satisfaction when you accomplish your target, and you get the satisfaction. And also the I put my pictures in the competitions, and when I win the competition, you get rewards. So this is the ideal package for me. So I decided to pick wildlife photography, although I was a little good at all the other uh, arts, like acting and drawing and kind of thing. I was good, but I thought this is the ideal kind of a extracurricular activities when as a hobby. Then I knew that I can I can I can improve my wildlife photography. So what I'm going to do now is I will show some pictures which I've taken, and Praveen mentioned Yala National Park. These all pictures were taken in Yala National Park. As you know, Yala National Park is famous for leopards, and these all pictures were taken in Yala National Park. A picture on the right uh, the leopard silhouette, which was taken in Kupila and which won the award in National Geography. I am a frequent traveler, so all these pictures were taken in Lake Kyrgyz in Greece, and the Dalmatian pelicans is the largest water bird, and their wingspan is around 10 feet when they stretch their feathers. And all these pictures were taken in Lake Kyrgyz. The beauty of this park is this: you can reach the animal and you can touch the animal in way, but you can go very close to the animal, and you can use your wide angle lenses in very close proximity without disturbing the animal. So we usually go in a paddle boat, and you can go very close to the bird, and you can take pictures. And I have taken these pictures, almost all the pictures which I have taken using the wide angle lens in a almost at the water level. With the paddle boat, you can position your camera, you can position your place, and you can bend down to the water level, and you can take your pictures. As you know, all these pictures were taken in very close proximity. And these are the pictures were taken in Kalimantan rainforest, Borneo orangutan. As you know, orangutans are the closest animal to the human, and their behavior is almost like human. In fact, I would say certain behavior is much ahead of human, because the rearing of or the caring of their offsprings are much better than a human, I suppose. And and it's a beautiful animal. And again, you can walk with your camera into the forest, and but of course, certain dominant male bony orangutans become a little aggressive if you disturb them. And also the picture on your right corner, you can see he's maneuvering a broomstick, which was kept to one of those stands, and it is used for feeding the animal by the park people. The park officials, they feed once a day with bananas, and they kept that broomstick to clear the deck. But this small fellow under shelter of its mom, try to maneuvering as we are maneuvering the broomstick. And picture on your left corner, you can see uh, actually they are feeding, not kissing each other. The mom is feeding the small fellow. So I titled this as a flying kiss. These two pictures were also taken in Kalimantan rainforest, Indonesia. This is called Proboscis monkey. The beauty of this monkey is a long nose, and it's beautifully blend with the uh, pink leaves, you can see. And these uh, these uh, these proboscis monkey, they love to eat these pink leaves. So their nose is beautiful, very ideal for portrait, I believe. And these pictures were taken in various parts of the world, and Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and some other countries in Africa. And you can see the lions, elephants, and giraffe. And I mean, I always travel whenever I get the opportunity, especially in Africa. I have been there for many times. So it's a beautiful place, and you can see animal in very close proximity. And so I think that is one of the uh, dreams of any wildlife photographer, to be in Africa to capture these wonderful animals. This is my new technology, new dimension in my wildlife photography. Now I am using a drone. Uh, all these pictures were three pictures of these birds were taken in Mana, and when they were nesting, these greater crested terns, and the picture with two crocodiles was taken in Kirinda. These pictures, these wild horses, were taken in uh, Delft Island. It's a beautiful place for wildlife photography, and there's a long history of these beautiful semi-wild horses, I would say. Actually, these are not wild horses; these are wild ponies. Between is not as big as a horse, but of course it's a beautiful place, and of course the terrain is not good, but still you can make very good pictures, and especially when they are running and all. So all these pictures were taken in Delphi Island. These pictures were taken in Brooks Falls, Alaska. As you know, there's a famous uh, natural history movement taken place in this place annually, especially in the middle of the year. And these you get Brooks Lake and the Brooks River, and in between you get the Brooks Falls. So some point of time, the all these salmons, they were swimming upstream to the lake, and when they passed the Brooks Falls, all the bears in the forest, they came for fishing, came for these salmons, and this red fellow is sockeye salmon, and others are silver salmon, various kinds of salmons. So all these pictures were, top two pictures were taken in Brooks Falls, and the down were taken in silver salmon class, and again in Alaska. So these are one of the big fellows, and they are about 3,000-4,000 kilos, huge fellows, and but the pictures are amazing. These pictures were taken in not much actually, but I wanted to share with beautiful picture. These were taken in Ranthambore National Park in India. So I would say the most beautiful mammal, for my opinion, in forest, and they are really blend with they are what you call dry gray kind of a forest, and all these pictures were taken in Ranthambore National Park. These were taken in Japan, Lake Kusharo, Kaido, and Cooper Swans, and also the picture on your right, left bottom is golden eagle, is a large eagle which was taken in Hokkaido again, and picture on your right bottom is all the trains, and they have kind of a sky dancing. They have the typical kind of a dancing when the snow was falling. It's all these pictures were taken in Japan. Again, the Japan Lake Chitukudani, a famous snow monkey, very small animal, really attractive animal, and they live in a forest, but they come to the hot spring for to immerse and to, to get to start their activities in the spring, because you get a hot spring there. So you can see their close proximity, and also these mammals. I think the primates are beautiful for portrait. As you know, I have again you can walk very close proximity with your camera without disturbing the animal. You can take beautiful portrait. So their face is very red, and it's relatively small monkey, and you can see their facial expression and how they behave. These pictures were taken in UK. UK also there's a very good opportunity for wildlife photography if you look into. And the Bass Rock, top left corner, the Bass Rock uh, gannets, they are spy posing, and also the top right picture also a gannet, and the left bottom is Atlantic puffin, and the right bottom is out Atlantic puffin, which were taken in Farnes Island in UK. So the Bass Rock is the top two, and the Farnes Island was the bottom two. These pictures were taken in Camargue, France, and they are famous for white horses. Again, as in Delft, ponies in Delft, in Sri Lanka, these horses also semi-wild now, but the beautiful horses. So again, you can go to very close proximity, you can take pictures, you can walk around freely. And also the pictures on the right side were greater flamingos, which was taken Parc de Ornithologie in Camargue, France. Again, the beauty of this park is again you can go to very close proximity. These are the same birds that they migrated to Sri Lanka during end of the year. But of course, in Sri Lanka, very difficult to reach them. And but here they are not disturbed. They are basically they know that they are not disturbed by the people, and the park is well maintained. Therefore, you can go very close properly to the bird. Here are the few pictures which when I travel, I meet, and these all my friends. And top left corner is the guy who travel with the jeep in Namibia, and the middle picture is from Kalimantan rainforest for Borneo orangutan, and the girl, the beautiful girl, is my guide in Alaska, and the picture in the middle, I got small fellows when I was in China, and the right corner picture is the two Maasai guys who join me very often whenever I go to Africa. As Raveen mentioned, I published two books, and The Untamed Road and Animal Versus a few years ago. And so I had the opportunity of meeting, I mean, very president at that time and also defense secretary at that time. And also the left bottom picture was Indian Navy commander, and the right bottom picture was at that time the Sri Lankan Navy commander Admiral Jayanath Kolamagi. So I published two books, and along with that I had two exhibitions. Here these are two exhibitions, and here you can see my father. Is no more. He was bedbound at that time, wheelchair bound, and two exhibitions along with two books. And you can see here I know the gentleman on the left top corner picture, my professor Carlo Fonseca, and he was the chief guest at one of my second exhibition. And again, I was able to meet a few famous artists, Sumledri Singh and D.B. Nihal Singh and Nanda Malini. So these are good link. I mean, when you have, other than the medicine, when you have something interesting, something especially like which is more towards the kind of art, and you have the opportunity to meet these famous personalities. And here my winnings, I got many awards and medals. I can't even remember how much I won. And here you can see my wife. And so these are my wins. These are my great victory. And I won the first place in India, Century Asia Wildlife Photography Competition in few years back. And this picture was taken in Yala National Park. A crocodile caught a deer kept underwater to avoid that from the other crocodiles. And after a few hours, it got soaked, and when we tried to scare the other crocodiles, and he got the skin of the deer. And I won the first place of this picture for this one. And here, the award ceremony was taken place in Mumbai. And picture on your left bottom, you can see famous wildlife photographer and National Geographic wildlife photographer, Steve Winter. So, and again, I won the couple of awards in Italy. So I had the opportunity to attend that. And that was the picture, small creative crested tern, which was taken in Manila. And again, I got the other award from big picture competition in US. Again, I got awards in Netherlands and Spain. And I am only mentioning here only few awards. And also I was able to get another qualification, I would say kind of a postgraduate qualification in wildlife photography, that is EFIAP. And that is the one before the final. Final is MFIAP, and I was able to get the EFAP. That is one of the highest qualification in wildlife photography. And with the qualification in wildlife photography and also the medicine and the gastroenterology and the diving medicine, I was a frequent speaker in the various forums, and you can see, and also I was the chief guest for many occasions for many schools, and here I was chief guest, especially the almost all the girls' schools. I think I was able to attend as the chief guest, and also I was the chief guest in my school when I studied Malideva College, Kurunegala, and also I was a chief guest in Defense College, Colombo, and uh, and also the Greenfield. I, was, I delivered some lectures in WNPS public lecture in few years ago, and also the few other lectures I involved. And again, even after my retirement, I never stopped sharing my knowledge with other people. And here, the picture on the left side, that is the inaugural lecture in the KDU, and I delivered a few months ago. And also a picture on the right side, again, one of the societies, they invited me as chief guest. Again, I was the keynote address. And again, recently in the YouTube as well, I was able to share my knowledge with certain festivals, that is Alpha One festivals, organized by one of the leading camera shop in Sri Lanka. And again, another few occasions that I have shared my knowledge with the people. And also, I am a frequent writer, and I have published many articles in papers with regard to my experience in wildlife photography. Whenever I travel out of the country, I always come up with a kind of an article to inspire the people and share my experience and share my beautiful pictures with them. Here you can see Yellowstone and Pans Island, Masai Mara, again Ranthambore Park, National Park in India. And here a few articles which people have written on me with regard to my achievements in wildlife photography. And this is the cross section of my effort in wildlife photography. As you know, wildlife photography is not easy. It is very tiring and it's a very tiring job. So you need to be physically 100% fit, because if you are not fit, if you go for 10-day tour, if you're exhausted, then you will, after about 3 days, I mean, you don't have the feeling of continuing your tour. So therefore, you need to be 100% fit, because it is not easy. Your commitment is very important, and therefore you need to maintain your fitness. So I always maintain my fitness, because I put this slide not because of anything, but to tell you all this is very important to maintain your fitness. Even today, I used to go to gym at least for 3-4 days a week and maintain my fitness. It was started many years ago, but still I am continuing. There's no limit, age limit for exercises. There's nothing like that. So till you die, I think you can do exercises. It's very important to maintain your fitness. Again, as I started my talk, your physical fitness is also very important when you especially when you are dealing with people. Your fitness is important, because at the end of the day you are going to be doctors, and you will be working long hours. Your fitness is very important, and you need to maintain your health, as I mentioned. And here I put my picture, these 3 pictures, how I maintain my appearance and my health. If you notice carefully, I got married in 1987, and my first daughter got married in 2013, and second daughter got married in 2017, and now they are doctors in UK. And if you notice, basically I wore my wedding suit for both my daughter's wedding. It is still in good shape because since I was in the Navy for almost 37 years, we hardly use the full suit for functions. We usually use the naval uniforms because of that, my wedding suit was still in good shape. So I wore that, yeah, my wedding suit for my first daughter's wedding in 2013 and also 2017. That means I am maintaining my size from 1987 up to now. Still, I can wear my same trouser without any problem. Still, my waist is about 32. So it is important. Even after so many decades, still I am maintaining my weight, my waist, and everything in the same shape. So as I mentioned, I am a family man as well. This is my family, two son-in-laws and two daughters, and these are their production. The kind of female preponderance you can see. The three girls, three granddaughters I have already got. They are in UK. So, so I think I have come to end of my talk, and so balanced and successful life, which I always believe you take calculated risk. It is important. Remember, children, you never succeed unless you take calculated risk. All the people, if you really read the people's story in the world, they have taken calculated risk. Not only the medicine, but also in other professions. You need to take calculated risk and do new things. My next advice. And it is important. Even in the wildlife photography, I do new things. Now, I mentioned few new things what I have done in my life, and especially in the diving medicine, especially in wildlife photography. Even when I was a director, I did new things. It is important you do new things, and also try to convert a problem to opportunity. It is important. When you come across a problem, try to make that problem to opportunity. Especially uh, when the COVID started in last March, and basically we could not travel, and also the hardly you have no freedom to travel. But I thought I used this opportunity to something else. What I did was I cleared all my previous photographs, which were kept in hard drives. So I was able to get fantastic pictures through the hard drives, and which otherwise wouldn't have never come up. And which in fact those pictures won a couple of medals as well. So always try to convert a problem to opportunity. That is very important. And also the do not give up, be positive. You only lose when you give up. Don't give up. All good things you need to be there. Don't give up. Be positive all the time. And again, be strong and fit both mentally and physically. That is very important. And also the last but not least, help and respect people. It is very important. Respect all the people. Even if you are a big consultant and a person who is going to clean your room, please respect her, he or she. It is very important. I always respect people. And these is something I think we are lacking in our profession. And try to respect all the people, even for mine employment. There's nothing called mine employment. All the people who who are in the society. So this always I believe. So I think I have come into the talk. I think it's 45 minutes gone. And okay, children, now here you have got highly decorated admiral and also the kind of a medical specialist in between the robust wildlife photographer. So I don't know what you would like, but I like the middleman that is a robust wildlife photographer, although I am a medical practitioner and a retired admiral. So I think thank you very much for the last 45 minutes. I hope that I told you something useful, which you can share with your friends or you can practice. And so I wish you all the best.